Okay. So this is what we just discussed now towards action system and social interaction, where he's actually introducing action system. What do you mean by constellation of action? The constellation of action forms the action system, and the different parts of any system is what he actually described here. And now we are going to theory of social action. So what we need is we need a definition first, obviously, and this definition something which is given by Parson, which you can directly take. This is very complicated one, consisting of plurality of individual actors interacting with each other in a situation which has at least a physical or environmental aspect. Actors who are motivated in terms of tendency to optimization of gratification and whose relation to their situation, including each other, is defined in terms of a system of culturally structured and shared symbols. You can mug it up, you can reproduce the same. I'll explain this anyway. But the same definition is what I have written like this in a different language. That will be much better for you to write, because that will actually tell the examiner about the conceptual clarity. Okay, so let me explain what is this definition first. Okay, so let's define social system now. That's the most important part. So he defines social system like this. So there will be social action. That's what we did first, right? Actions never occur in isolation, but in constellation. And that's what you mean by action system. So here I'm just talking about the action part now. So there is action. Now, any action, there will be some kind of reciprocity, right? So action means it should be oriented towards other person. Mostly it has to be oriented towards other person. The conditions you have seen already. So here I'm not talking about what exactly is action, what are the conditions of actions or anything. You know what you mean by action. We have discussed it. Any act consciously performed is social action. And then there are 4 conditions, all those things that we know. I'm not getting into that. Now here, there is an action. And this action is oriented towards other person, right? So other person, that means it is oriented towards other person and is in a state of mutual reciprocity. That means the other person is also responding. Like I am here, okay, and you are at the other end. So I am doing an action. That means it is oriented towards you, right? And you are also responding to this action. That means what? It is in a state of mutual reciprocity. You got this much? So action is oriented towards other person and is in a state of mutual reciprocity. Means I am taking an action which is oriented towards you and you are responding to that action. That means there is a mutual reciprocity. So if this is there, this will lead to social interaction. So he first defined what is social action, and now from social action he is going further to describe what is social interaction. What is social? It is very simple, right? Action, it should be oriented towards other person, and the other person is also responding. What does that mean? Between two people there is an interaction. If the other person is not responding, will there be any interaction? If your action is not oriented towards other person, will there be any interaction? No, right? So there is nothing difficult in this. You are doing an action to other person, the other person is listening to that and responding to that. That's when mutual reciprocity. Mutual reciprocity means both are doing something in that similar context. Okay, so action oriented towards other person and is in a state of mutual reciprocity will lead to social interaction. I hope this much is very clear. And this social interaction will result into a system, social system, if it satisfies certain conditions. This interacting individuals should have some common goals. Okay, and there should be some motivation. Means goal and motivation is one and the same almost. So let's not get into let's not separate it. Okay, so goals, there should be common goal, right? We have a common goal? Yes, we have common goal. So the social interaction, will it lead to social system? 2 more conditions we have to see. There should be some norms and values which has to be followed, and there should be an abstract boundary around them. Now, what do you mean by this boundary? This is not a physical boundary. That's what the word which is used here, abstract boundary. It could be a boundary at the mental level. Do we have a boundary here? Yes, we have hardly this many students who are sitting here, 37, 40 students, right? So that means there is a boundary that we have created, whether it is in terms of the username or the password or whatever it is. Otherwise, anybody can get into this, and that will lead to a lot of chaos and issues, right? So here we have created a boundary. Now tell me guys, is this social interaction, can it become social system? Yes. Why? All the conditions are satisfied. The goals are there, which is common for both of us, that we want to score good in sociology. And then are we following the norms and values? Yes. Are we creating a boundary around us? So this is a closed group around us, right? Whether it is a WhatsApp group or this class sessions or whatever it is, which is based on a certain kind of boundary. So this is what the definition of social system that I want you to write. Now, this is something which is derived out of that Parsons actual definition. But if you can remember, if you can mug it up, see, hardly you have few definitions only. If you can mug it up, you go with that. Even after explaining that, you can still further describe this level also. So let me show you this definition there. So according to Parsons, actions are oriented towards others and are in a state of mutual reciprocity. Social interaction takes place. Okay. So now we are at the level of interaction. Now this interaction will result into a system if the interacting individuals are mediated by some common goals. So do we have this common goal? Yes. Okay. And then norms and values? Yes. And have abstract boundary around them? Yes. Okay. Now the definition, this is something which is up to you. If you can mug it up, you can do that. Consisting of plurality of individual actors. That means one actor is not enough, right? Because interaction is required. So it has to be plurality of individual actors. It's simply indicating this point only. Interacting with each other. So he's talking about interaction here. In a situation which has at least a physical or environmental aspect, it should be in a social situation. Actors who are motivated in terms of tendency to optimization of gratification. Guys, can anyone of you tell me what does this mean? You are motivated in terms of tendency to optimization of gratification. What is that from this? It is nothing but the goals. Okay, the tendency to optimization of gratification is your goals, and whose relation to their situation, including each other, is defined and mediated in terms of a system of culturally structured and shared symbols. What does this mean? It is nothing but the norms and values. Okay, so the same definition is what I've given in a simplified form. You can write this, and if you can remember, you can write this also. There is no necessity that you need to mug it up exactly like this, but those who can do it, do it. Okay. Now some conditions. This is very easy, directly from the definition only. There should be some interaction between two or more individuals that is necessary for any system to exist. And the interaction should take place in a social situation having a discrete physical or environmental aspect. Okay. And there are certain collective goals which are shared by the members. Guys, goals occupy a prominent position, a very important position when it comes to Parsons analysis. Parsons always give importance to goals. Okay. And the members must be motivated to participate. It develops a set of common values or consensus on role expectation, which is influenced by motivation of individual and norms and values of society. I hope you are very clear about this point. This is what we have explained in the last session. Role expectation, role definition. We discussed this when we discussed about pattern variable. So what is the problem with respect to role? When it will come? When there is a dilemma. What is the reason for dilemma? With respect to your choice for motivation and values of society. So this role expectation will definitely be influenced by motivation and value. In a traditional society, it will be value side. In a modern society, it will be inclined or influenced more by motivation side. All these we have, guys, whatever we have explained in the previous sessions, only you are coming across here. Actually, there is nothing special or new here. And there should be an abstract boundary. And what is this boundary? It should be in terms of symbols or which makes it distinct from others. We created a group, right? How many members are there? Around 150 members are there in our WhatsApp group, right? So that is a very closed group. And this many are attending the classes. So which is again a very close group. Why? We have created some kind of abstract boundary and only we can participate in this. Okay, so will this contribute a system? This class? Yes. Why? There is plurality of individual actors. There is interaction, which is in a social situation. And there is a collective goal. We are motivated to participate. And there is a role expectation, very clear role expectation is there in terms of what I do and what you do. And there is an abstract boundary around us. Okay. So now this is the definition part, which is very important. That's why I spent some time in the definition. So any doubt with respect to any question from this definition? Because we are going for the two most important parts now, that is mechanism equilibrium phase and the AGIL model. So here, there's the definition. And now, after giving the definition, this is not enough for Parson. What he is looking for is, now he want to develop a functional theory, in fact, a grand functional theory, which can explain not only social system, but all system. Okay, so he have given this theory in two phases. The first is he actually addressed two questions. I would say he addressed two questions in this theory. One question is the maintenance of the system. Guys, how we maintain the system, how we are able to take classes, how we are able to attend these classes, how the finance is coming, how the technology is coming, how the norms and values is shaped up, how the tension is managed, and how all these things are maintained. Because the system need to survive, there are certain things which need to be taken care. And how the system is surviving. We are here, we are attending this class for, I think it's been 2 months, right? So how we survived for this 2 months, how we are doing that in the system. Similarly, if you take any system, how the system is surviving or how the system is maintained. That is one important question that you need to address. That is what he's going to do in the first part of the theory. And the functions fulfilled by a particular system. What are the functions which is done? And he will address these two questions in two parts. So this theory will have two parts. The first part obviously addressing this question, and the second part will be addressing this question. And the name of these two parts are like this: moving equilibrium phase. In fact, it is mechanism equilibrium phase. But sometimes you will see in the question paper, they're asking you question moving equilibrium. It is the same. The first phase is mechanism equilibrium phase, which explain how the system is survived. And then there is something called as requisite functionalism phase, where he is talking about the famous AGIL model. So these two parts are two questions which he addressed, and these are two questions that the examiner can ask you also. What is moving equilibrium or the mechanism equilibrium phase, and what is the requisite functionalism phase or AGIL? So these are the two phases: mechanism equilibrium phase and the requisite functionalism phase. So let me first explain this mechanism equilibrium phase. So what he's trying to do over there, he's just trying to see how the system is surviving. Okay. So what he's telling us, now just look into this diagram only, things will be very clear with that. There are some mechanisms. Let's talk about society, guys. Okay. So let's talk about society and let's explain how society is surviving. And society is a system. Yes or no? Do you have any confusion whether society is a system or not? Society is having plurality of individual actors. They are interacting. Okay. So there is a common goal, motivation, and all those things, and everything, boundary and everything is there. So society is actually a system. So there are mechanisms. Mechanisms could be anything. It could be legal system. It could be political system. It could be economic system. There are different mechanisms. Okay. So these mechanisms, what is their role? They fulfill certain needs. That means they have certain role to perform, and they perform that role and they fulfill that role. That means they fulfill the needs. And once they perform their duty, what will happen? It will bring society in an equilibrium. So we all will live in a very good system, in an equilibrium system. Now what will happen is, after some time, some disturbance can come, this equilibrium can break. Now what is the situation in which the equilibrium can break? That will be addressed separately in another theory, another part. That is what you call a cybernetic hierarchy of control, where I will explain how this equilibrium will be broken. But here, temporarily, you just need to see that equilibrium will be broken at some situation. That means there will be some disturbance. I just write it as disturbance. Disturbance means disequilibrium, or the equilibrium will be broken. Then what will happen is there will be a feedback which will be given to mechanisms. So they will act again and they will fulfill the needs and they will bring back the equilibrium. So let's say there are more crimes are coming. So what will happen? The feedback will be given. So the police system, judicial system, etc. will be getting active and fulfill the needs and bring the equilibrium. Like that. So the disturbance here is temporary. Now, if you compare it with Marx, the disturbance are permanent. So the solution is revolution. Here, that's not the case. It's a temporary disturbance with the feedback, which is the system will give can solve the problem within itself. So the mechanism, let's see the system. Traditional society, joint family, right, which was based on joint family. Joint family fulfilled the needs of the feudal setup, feudal way of life, and the traditional setup, and there was an equilibrium. But when the capitalist setup came, or the industries came, now what is required? Joint family will not be enough. So there is a change to nuclear family. So nuclear family now fulfill the needs which is required for the system and bring back the new equilibrium. So the new equilibrium now based on nuclear family. And when it proceeds further, it will be live-in relation. It could be single parent family also. So that change. Similarly, this technology development, IT, or this cyber advancements and everything. So more cyber crimes are coming. The same example, cyber crimes are coming. So what will happen? Then the feedback coming. So more and more cyber laws will be coming, and then fulfill the needs and will tackle the problems and will bring back the equilibrium, right? And then normal system will continue. So how the system is maintained? The system is maintained like this. So this is what you mean by moving equilibrium. Why it is moving equilibrium? Equilibrium keep on moving. Every day we are in a new equilibrium. Every day we have some temporary problems. Every day it keep on solving with the mechanisms, and every day we are in a new equilibrium, right? This COVID came. What happened? It was a disequilibrium, disturbance. Then the feedback is given. The new mechanisms, whether it is vaccines or sanitizers or the mask or everything, then fulfill the needs and bring back the new equilibrium. Now we are in a new normal, new equilibrium, which we have never seen, right, before. Okay, so this is the first part. Then the second part is AGIL. But before that, let me show you this PDF. So mechanism equilibrium phase. Initially, Parsons emphasized on identifying different mechanisms which helped in maintaining the equilibrium in society. Equilibrium is a dynamic one. That is, society keep on changing, but it always remain in an equilibrium. Specific mechanisms helps in maintaining the equilibrium by providing feedback to other mechanism which operates to restore the equilibrium if there is any disturbance occurred. Guys, I hope this is pretty clear to all of you. Though there are mechanisms, fulfill the needs, bring equilibrium. If there is a disturbance, there will be feedback which is given, and fulfill the needs, bring the equilibrium. Now, how this disturbance is coming, which need to be explained with the help of something which we are going to learn towards the end, that is cybernetic hierarchy of control. Okay, so as of now, we don't want to discuss that. Now, the next is requisite functionalism phase. Here is where we need to discuss about this AGIL model and drawing all these diagrams and everything. Okay. So the next is the requisite functionalism phase. Now, guys, let me tell you one thing. We have discussed about specific mechanisms which are going to fulfill the needs. So how many mechanisms will be there? 1, 2, 3. See, family will be one mechanism, laws will be legal system, the judiciary, the police system, religion may be one mechanism. So n number of thousands and thousands of mechanisms will be there, right? Now what Parsons says is, these specific mechanisms are nothing but so what is the role of this mechanisms? Fulfill certain needs. Certain needs means certain requirements. So these thousands of mechanisms are fulfilling certain needs, which is very necessary for the survival of the system to bring the system in an equilibrium. So the mechanisms fulfill the needs. Now what Parsons says is, these mechanisms are fulfilling 4 vital functions only. And these are the 4 functional requisites which need to be fulfilled for any system to survive. I repeat, for any system to survive, there are 4 vital requirements. Any system, be it this class or any system, there are 4 vital requirements. There are 4 vital functional requisites. And all what the specific mechanisms are doing is nothing but fulfilling these 4 vital functions, or these 4 vital functional requisites. So these fulfillment of certain needs means what? Fulfillment of 4 most important functional requirements. For any system to survive, 4 most important functional requisites are there, which is nothing but this AGIL, adaptation, goal attainment, integration, and latency. When we go further, you will understand everything.